GM everyone, what's up? We blaze trails, we build bridges, a better world awaits. DAOpunks lead the way. Joining us today in the Sovereign Frontier podcast is LiveFast from the DAOpunk community. LiveFast GM, what up? Welcome to the Sovereign Frontier podcast.
GM, thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you for inviting me. Happy to be here. Happy to talk about DAOpunks. We gotta help, like you said, blaze trails and build bridges.
Yes, and I can't wait to delve into that. But before we get started, we have a little tradition on the podcast where for first-time guests, you walk us through how you got into the Web3 space. And so could you tell us your story and how you landed here?
Oh, man. I'm going to be honest. Like, my journey into Web3 is like, how just some people just keep failing upwards. That's basically me. So I got into my journey into Web3 and crypto in the large part started back in 2012 when I was first introduced into Bitcoin like offhandedly, and I had learned that I was like, oh, like you can make some money by like mining some digital currency like using your computer. And I went home, looked up on some forums. I found myself like downloading some like miners, and I joined a slush pool. And I like set up my computer and I hit the mine button and I started mining. And I basically put it down. I was doing folding some laundry. I turned to look at my computer and I think I mined like something like 0.001 Bitcoin in like a couple minutes. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I was like, oh, like, well, this is only like 30 cents or something. It was like something like something small. And I was like, I was running my computer like full tilt. I bought a brand new PC. I had like dual GTX 470s in there. And I was like, it was running hot, full tilt, fans were screaming. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, but I don't know if this is for me. And so I turned off the miner, jumped into the shower, came back, and I was like, I'll go turn this back on maybe tomorrow. Fast forward 8 years, and then it was like 2017, 2018, and I was like, oh shit, man, Bitcoin's like over like 60,000, it's approaching like $40,000, $60,000. I was like, man, and I started this like so many years ago. Ended up getting back into it. Found a small group of friends who introduced me into more currencies. Got into Ethereum. Kind of was like a little more like passive on it. I was like just like collecting a few like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I saw like the NFT boom came running in, and I was like, I had a buddy of mine who was just like, hey, like he was really big into it, and I was like, hey, can you just like recommend me like an NFT? I just want to own one. I want to be a part of it. And he's like, oh, well, like, why don't you go check out like DAOpunks? He's like, they got this, like, they're brand new. And if you get one of their NFTs, like you can claim a free t-shirt. And I'm like, bet. Gotcha. Like I'm sold immediately. Went on OpenSea and I bought myself like my first DAOpunk NFT. And I was like, oh, all right, like now I get to claim my shirt. Got my shirt, and then I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, and I'm a part of it. Didn't really do much after that. Sat around for 2 months, and then finally I was like, no, I have this NFT. I should probably there's like a membership, like I can get into the group at like the DAO. Like, let me just like see what it's all about. Ended up joining like a community call. And then like I remember I sat in the community call. I sat there for like an hour and didn't say a word. I was just listening to everybody. And it was like Hero Kennelly was in the meeting, and he just sat there and like they were talking about something. And finally he just like flat out just like he blurts out, yo, LiveFast, you have been in this meeting for an hour and you haven't said a single word. What is your position? Or what do you think of doing this? And I was like, oh shit. I was like, I don't know. I gave my opinion on something, and he's like, "Oh, that's not so bad." And then ever since then, I've been hooked. I was showing up week after week to meetings, eventually helping, build out various different programs on there. We helped write our governance, helped write out our grants program, helped run several grants programs, helped write the digital license agreement for us, helped redesign help flesh out our website, helped drop a secondary open edition for the DAOpunks, developed and created new merch, and just became community manager. Just kind of like became like fully engrossed into the community and trying to help out everywhere we can. So it's been a wild ride, and even beyond that, it's kind of like helped me just like grow as an individual and just kind of like taught me many things about myself that I wouldn't have otherwise learned or got to experience.
That's awesome. And your Web3 journey in general started way back in 2012. That's like the OG of OGs, right? I mean, Bitcoin launched in 2009, so just like 3 years after the launch of Bitcoin, you were already in. And wow, that's crazy. I mean, if we are looking at the people who lost their Bitcoin boating accident, we could put you in that category.
Yeah, it was funny because I remember it so vividly because I mean, do you actually even know? I can tell you the exact moment or like the exact TV show where Bitcoin was first mentioned to the mass public. Do you even know that answer?
Nope.
In 2012, it was a TV show that was on, I believe it was ABC. It was called The Good Wife, and there was an entire episode dedicated to Mr. Bitcoin, about a digital currency that was like, to upend the banks. And they had this whole thing about like, yeah, they're like, yeah, it's Bitcoin, and it's like, this is digital currency, and like you do not need to use like fiat. That was the whole point. The entire episode revolved around like trying to figure out who Mr. Bitcoin was, and they couldn't. And it was just like this like fascinating take on it. And I was like, oh, this is wild. And I was like, oh, I really got to get back into this. And that's kind of like, I remember that it sticks out in my head very vividly. I was just like, yeah, that was like the first time that was like mentioned to like in like mass media. Wild.
Wow. There are some points in the history of like Bitcoin that once you experience it, it forever, stays with you, and you can always like remember it like it was yesterday. And so that's quite informative that you get to give us the first show that mentioned Bitcoin. So that's really nice. So you've had a very unique journey because being in the space from 2012 till now and still being in the space, that's been like a wild ride, right? Like that's been over a decade now. Yeah, you've mentioned over and over again, or for a while now, DAO Punks. And so for the way we are going to go into this is that I want us to like really disintegrate, pick it one after the other, the concept of DAO Punks and the journey, how DAO Punks started and where it is now, and some plans that DAO Punks have in the future. But before we get started, the word DAO Punks itself has two words put together. We have the DAO, and then we have the Punks, right? So put it together, DAO Punks. And so for our listeners who might not be familiar with what DAOs are, could you give us a quick overview of what DAOs are and how they work?
Yeah, so DAOs are, there's the literal meaning of it. So DAOs are decentralized autonomous organizations. They're built as a decentralized group of people who are joined together either through some type of common means to help organize or run a organization through decentralized means, either through like some owning of some type of like token or some type of currency, and they help guide and make decisions based on that ownership and your voice, and your voice and power that you have through owning of like the representation of it. And so with us, with DAOpunks, we are you have, as long as somebody has one of our NFTs, our DAOpunks, you have a voice and you have a voting right to it. And we consider, we are like the DAOpunks that, because like we are built as like, both as a like we want to be like, the best way to describe it is like both like facilitators, and also we're just like the kind of like the rebels that are like kind of like rebel, like not really formal punks or rebels in it, but we're just like kind of like rebelling against like our former like experiences in life to try to like find our new selves in Web3 and what that opportunity has. So like DAOpunks was born out of Bankless DAO, one of like the premier prestigious like news and like informative DAOs that helps kind of like educate people about like Web3 and everything. And DAOpunks was born out of that through a conversation and discussion between the crypto Bushi and Sinjin, and they kind of like created the first DAOpunk as like a more of like a proof of concept, and they delivered it to all of like the bankless DAO members, and then through there, then they created the whole DAOpunks collection, a set of 1,111 unique punks that are basically kind of like imagine it more of like cyber tech wear, streetwear inspired avatars that are basically kind of like are like, you know, punks as we normally, like, you know, we generally see them, but they're basically, we're there to organize themselves and try to collate as a DAO to kind of like help and give people that liberation and freedom from what we consider as like the default world work. It's not a like any malice in it, but it's a idea that, you know, Web3 is the new frontier of our lives, and it has so many possibilities. And, you know, many people, you know, these day and age, they find that they're like, you know, working in the general Web2 world, you know, is so like unempowering. They're so like, you know, it's just like it's a soul sucking thing. People talk about like, oh, I don't really like, I use my job, I don't like find any fulfillment in there, and it's just like it takes a lot out of me. And DAOpunks' idea is that like you are not limited to that. Web3 is the new frontier where you can find new work and find fulfilling work that fits what you need to it, and you can do like, you know, and there's endless possibilities. There's endless ways for you to like find fulfillment, to find a career, and to be able to provide for yourself and any like in those that you need to basically support in Web3. And so that's our like core belief and mission, is that like we want to help liberate you from your soul sucking drudgery of like default world work and help you find the work that is fulfilling and will empower you in Web3.
That's really interesting. And I remember it like it was yesterday, and like I say, there are certain things that you get into Web3 as an individual that you have the opportunity to experience, and that lives with you forever. And for me, I think one of those experiences is actually the DAOpunk, the beginning of the DAOpunks, right? So I was also here or in the bankless DAO when it started, and man, the euphoria, the drive to create a better future, and the coordination from people from all over the world who, you know, basically wanted to materialize the bankless mission, which, you know, in a way also kind of blossomed into a lot of people coming together to coordinate to create interesting projects. It was a really empowering times, and yes, I remember vividly the beginnings, or the humble beginnings of DAOpunks in the bankless DAO Discord server. And so, like you say, the DAOpunks mission is to enable humans to liberate themselves from the soul-sucking drudgery of default world work and lead them to the rewarding, expansive freedom found in meaningful DAO work. DAOpunks blaze new trails, leading others to fertile promised lands, where they find opportunity, meaningful work, community, and untold abundance. We build the bridges, we blaze the trails. With openness, we invite others to join. Together we go further. A better world awaits. DAOpunks lead the way. This is one of the coolest.
Our manifesto, man. I know. It's like it really hits the soul at a certain level.
Yeah.
I will say it has not been easy. DAOpunks, if you take a step back beyond the manifesto, I mean, the other thing that you have to understand is like the DAOpunks DAO is mostly, it's all a group of volunteers. We're all volunteers, and I'm a volunteer as well. And, you know, I give a lot of my time and a lot of energy into trying to help build out. And I've done I know you've seen me in the like the forums. You've seen me actively like posting things, and I've done projects. We've done many things. We have done many things. We try all new interesting tactics of trying to help keep towards the goal of our, like, as dictated by the manifesto. For a while, we did we had a job board and a talent pool where we were helping match people with certain skill sets with jobs in Web3s to kind of like give that, and that worked out pretty well for almost a year. But then recently that program was deprecated. The company that we were using shuttered its doors, and they pivoted to another program. So we had to unfortunately close that program. But it was like, we were really cooking for a while of like trying to get like, we were working very hard on that.
Yeah.
Then we also have our grants program, our grants program where we empower anybody. We do rounds of cohorts where people can submit their application, who are interested in either working on a project in Web3, building on an idea, or need funds to help transition to them to try and find like work in Web3. And we've been doing that. We've given something away like 12 ETH away over the last like 5 cohorts. 5 cohort rounds, and we're just starting up a new one, trying to give away more ETH to just kind of like help empower and help people build out more projects and ideas in Web3.
Yeah. So yes, in fact, you kind of front ran my question with your answer already, which is normal because I mean front running in Web3 is like it's an everyday thing. So yes, that was a great answer. I wanted to ask, after dropping the mission and the vision or the manifesto, like you said, my question was, how is it going, right? But then I think you've mentioned some key things which we would probably also look into very soon. But then one of the questions that I want to ask, before we proceed is, for someone who has been in the DAO Punks community and even has become a leader within the community, how does DAO Punks envision the future of work in a decentralized world? You did mention that you believe that Web3 is the frontier. Web3 is kind of the next evolution of how humans coordinate, whether that is work or other things. And DAO Punks or DAOpunk, the project, is kind of acting like a bridge that is helping people transition from normal corporate work to the DAO space work. And so, how do you envision work in a decentralized world? I want to pick your brain on this.
I sort of see a lot of people taking the skills that they had in like their Web 2 world and applying it to Web 3. Honestly, the more time I spend in Web 3, the more I realize that like, hey, like we need more programmers, we need more artists, we need more project managers, and then like we also need like a ton more of like the basic necessities: accountants, money managers, people who are good with data analysis, data science. You need basic just like community managers and skill sets that are from like normal like everyday jobs that you would have, and you just translate it over to it because hey, DAOs are basically turning into small organizations that need the understanding and the skill sets that you would get from like the Web 2 world that originally everybody was trying to build out and code and like get good art for it. So in the beginning everybody was just like, oh, you need to like learn like programmers and web development and like back end, front end engineering. And now it's slowly turning into like, no, you also like, we don't need those people. We need like our accountants, our money managers, like how to do finances and stuff like that. So we've grown past that, like, oh, they're like, it's just beyond the like, okay, we need to build smart contracts and everything. They're like, we need to like how to sustain an organization and being able to do that. It's wild. You can, you're going to find a whole swath of new people with new experiences who aren't familiar with Web3, but have like years or decades of experience in a specific or technical field that like, we didn't need 3-4 years ago. We need now just to like sustain our organizations.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. So take for example, for a typical accountant or could be an artist, like you said, we need a lot of those. Nothing actually, not much changes with regards to the work that the fundamental work that you do, especially with regards to setting roles, right? So like you mentioned, like an accountant, like a marketer, like sales representative, and all of that. But then I'm curious, like a follow up question is how different, or what are some key differences that a Web3 accountant would have, which would be different from a Web2 accountant, or what do you think is a characteristics of a decentralized work future that differentiates it clearly from the Web2 one?
I think that some of the experiences, like some of them would be, it's very similar, but also some of it will be probably a little bit different, working more in a more transparent and on blockchain type of way, learning how to handle across like various different nation states. Maybe not a lot would be different, but that's also kind of like a good thing. They you don't, not every, like, until, and like, unless like they could probably bring in their experience of just different tools and like understanding what worked in Web2 and what doesn't work in Web3, and help evolve that and see where we can go, what can be improved in that. I don't know, because like that's not my area of expertise, but I definitely have slowly started to see like the onboarding of like regular Web2 positions that you wouldn't normally think of, and they're like, oh yeah, like I'm used to like using like, this type of programming for like, payroll and stuff like that. And they're like, oh, in like Web3, they're like, well, how do you do it? Like, like, how do you do, like mass on-chain recurring payments or like invoicing and stuff like that. And I recently just had an experience where I submitted my first invoice to a DAO and I got paid through it. And it's wild because like, beforehand, like before this, it was just like, hey, like I did this work, and you would just send a, like word of mouth, like, hey, like, this is the payment, like, fill out this, can I get paid for this work? And now it's like it's becoming more like more proper, like more authentic. Like I can fill out my invoice, itemize it, and then send it for the work for completion date, and I get like this signed receipt authorized by like multi-sig signers, and they're like, yeah, this is fine. Like here's the payment for your work. Thank you very much. And then like, oh, we have to schedule repayment, like recurring payments. They're like, okay, like here's the invoice, set it up. It's fascinating. This is stuff that like I'm experiencing that like we didn't have like 2 years ago. That was like as fluid and as seamless as it is now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny you say that, because it's like, 2 years ago it was all let's go LFG. And right now, I think certain best practices in the Web2 world is getting adopted in the DAO space. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see all of this. So with regards to the work, I'm curious, how was DAOpunk doing it? You said you had a platform where people, a job board, right? Could you walk us through that one too?
Yeah, so our job board no longer, well, like I said, the job board no longer exists. But like when we had it, the job board was an aggregation of all available Web3 based jobs, ranging from like interns to entry level jobs to senior level positions for like CEO, CTO, and stuff like that. And we would just like try to work with other Web3 based companies to help them post on our board, or we would aggregate from other locations to help redirect people to like these positions, so that way they can try to find new jobs or find something interesting in there. And then in addition to the job board, we had a talent pool where we would collect people of like varying different skills and experiences that were either DAOpunk members or affiliated with the DAOpunks. And then we would take that list and we would offer it to all these Web3 companies, so that way they can help find employment or find people specifically for what they were needing. So if like they needed like a front end developer, like they could go through our list and like, oh, they're like, oh, here's this person who works in front end. Here's this like, you know, list of experiences, projects that they work on, that like we can help initiate that conversation, to get them help both the person who is looking for work get work, and help the company that's looking to find somebody to fill a job, fill a need, to get some stuff done, get that taken care of.
Yeah, and I see why this was very, very important, and you know, very crucial to the DAO space, because it can be very overwhelming within the DAO space, you know, trying to find your way around, especially to when you have the skill and looking for, you know, somewhere to deploy that valuable skill. Onboarding in DAOs basically is kind of broken, and it's been broken since the beginning. I know there are a lot of people who are trying to solve that, and so having a job board or a place where you can literally go find available, which aggregates various jobs across Web3, and everyone could go there and find a job, or open positions. I think that was cool. The talent pool idea too was pretty awesome. And so I guess, I mean, these were all great ideas, and they were implemented. But like you said, for some, you know, reasons, it has to be taken. It had to go. Do you have any plans of bringing it back, probably in a different form? Maybe you have new ideas around this, or what is the future of this part of DAOpunks?
That's the TBD. It's on. It was a great. I love the idea. It worked. It was such a great idea, and it was so in line with the manifesto. The issue is that, like, you know, hey, you know, we need to develop it, and you know that, of course, that takes like time, energy, and money, of which DAOpunks is a group of volunteers, and you know, that's a lot of that's a lot to ask for them. It is something we are looking to do, to see if we can try to like build something ourselves, but you know, we'll see what happens. It's easier to help work on something that was already pre-developed, or like work with an organization that does it, and we can help use our name and help like bring them more work. That's what we were, you know, that's what it was originally premised on. It was like, oh, hey, like here's an organization that like, hey, like we have this platform that like we just need somebody, like if you can help fill it, like it works out. And I was like, this is exactly what we want to do, and we did very well with trying to build it out with them. But you know, unfortunately, they kind of the company pivoted, and so that's fine. That kind of like goes with Web3. Sometimes you have to pivot to develop and become your better version. So we're looking still consider that on the as an idea, and we're just looking to continue making our, like, you know, continue to survive in Web3. You know, one of, you know, where as a DAOpunks is kind of like we've been around for several years. And you know, during that time, we've seen a lot of like DAOs like open up and shutter right before our eyes. So our goal is just trying to maintain and continue doing good work that we can, and while still trying to provide some type of value to the Web3 community. And so, you know, hey, it takes time for us to build out things, and you know, we're okay with that. It's you know, building something great takes time, and we want to make sure if we do something, we do it well.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And yeah, it's the DAO space is very experimental, so I'm not surprised that, you know, a lot of DAOs pop up and pop out. Yeah, but like it's very interesting. So that was one part of the movement when it came to DAOpunks, and how you were executing the vision and then the mission, right? So you had this job thing, which was helping people transition. The other major part, or the other major thing, was the grant program. And this is still running, and I want you to walk me through the DAOpunk grant program. What is it?
So the DAOpunk grant program was a program designed from one of our members that was just like, you know, if in order to help onboard people, you need more than just like, you need to give them some type of like safety net, and try to help them, encourage them to make the transition. So we decided that, in order to help people make that transition, we're going to give them some like seed money, just like a little bit of seed money to help make that switch. So it started off as the general consensus was like, we're going to give away 1 ETH from our treasury to participants and applicants who apply for each cohort round. So we've been doing, we've done 5 cohort rounds, and we've each given 3 for each of the cohort rounds. We pick 3 people, and we give them each 1 ETH each, and kind of try to help like jumpstart whatever idea, transition into Web3 or project that they're working on, to kind of help give them some funding to kind of like help their journey along and get them going. It's been, at times it has been successful. Several of our people who have gone through our cohort program have actually gone and like continued doing like pretty phenomenal things, well beyond the cohort program. For instance, we have Lynx, who is running the Bankless card. We have Marcus, who now works for the Ethereum Foundation. Salman needs a job. He was great. He's got his own little podcasting and Web3 platform. Then we have Ornella Web3 just opened up her first LLC, and is doing some beautiful work. It's really great. Oh, and how can I possibly forget the great TrueCat, who's got their own independent news publishing website, IndiePen, up and running. This just like give you some highlights of like some great people who ran through our cohort program, who are doing some pretty great stuff. 1 ETH isn't a lot of money, but it is enough to kind of like help take a little bit of relief off of people, to help make them focus on their journey in Web3, and we're kind of happy about that.
Yeah. So yeah, I definitely can attest to that. So I was also in the last cohort as a grant seeker. I was close. I was this close, 4th. So shout out to all of the people who have passed through the cohort and are doing well. I know TrueCat, Ornella, Salman needs a job himself. These are all lovely people who are doing amazing stuff, and so huge shout out to them. So would you share any updates with regards to the new cohort? What are some changes that have been introduced?
Yeah, happy to. So we're starting up our cohort 5, and in this round we're limiting it to certain aspects. We're only picking 2 people out of like the group of applicants for this cohort round, and we're limiting it to people who are working on a specific project or doing an event in Web3. We found that we've had enough applicants that are trying to like help support them in their Web3 journey, trying to help them transition, and we want to focus more on like people who are working specifically on something like a project or like developing something. We want to help support them, and we want to help people support like hosting events. The last cohort round, we had a lot of new applicants who were talking about like hosting events and doing meetups and events, and like they were looking to hire like 50 to like 100 participants in different parts of the country that where 1 ETH can help run an event like that. And it was just so fascinating, and a lot of it was just like, we want to hear more about that. We want to see more things. We want something more tangible as a direct result out of this. So, we decided to focus in more on those 2 aspects to see if we can help kind of like bolster that. So that's where we're going to take cohort 5. And we're pretty excited about that. Cohort 5 starts, our application portal opens up this Sunday, Sunday at 12:01 Pacific time, AM. So, if you are working and if you have a Web3 project, or you're working on a Web3 project, or you're planning on hosting an event, and you're thinking, hey, I can use some extra, like I could use an extra 1 ETH to help pay for space, or help get new developers, or help finish the project or anything, tell us all about it. We are very excited to hear about it. We'd love to know more, and maybe if your idea is interesting, very interesting to the rest of the community, hey, you could possibly be eligible to receive a 1 ETH grant from us.
How long? I mean, you've been part of the team designing the cohort programs for the past 4 cohorts. Is that correct?
Yeah. Several. Yeah, I've been actively involved in the cohort programs for a while. Yeah, since its inception. Yeah.
Wow. All right. And so, what would you say has been 3 key takeaways with regards to designing such a grant program?
Some of the big things that is that how do you get your application to stand out amongst the other people? We've noticed that every cohort round, we have a ton of really great applicants, and then and they just they have such great ideas and great visions, but not everybody. It's really hard to compare when you're stacking up against you have 4 or 5 really great applications, and how do you you only have to pick a hand, only one of these 3, 3 of them are going to get chosen, and that 4th one you're just oh man. But my best suggestion is be very clear with your application about what is it for, how is it going to benefit, how could it change it. Detailing that kind of level of explanation really tends to go a long way in better having people understand what is it that you're working on, and how can it benefit DAO Punks, or even just a larger Web3 ecosystem. It doesn't even all of your applications don't even have to benefit DAO Punks. It could be benefiting the whole Web3 ecosystem. It could be a disruptor in that way, and we want to hear more about that. We would love to be help participate and be active in that. That's usually one of the big ones, is being able to effectively describe what are you working on, and how what its benefit can be. That's the big one for me.
All right. Okay. So if you're out there and you're listening to this podcast, hopefully it comes out before or during the application phase, and hopefully you get value out of LiveFast advice, and you apply it to your application, and hopefully that gets you far. All right. And so LiveFast, I have a couple of questions with regards to some other stuff that DAOpunks does, but then I want us to take a step backward and just look at the Web3 space with regards to work and the DAO space in general. And I guess my conversation or the conversation that I want to open up is just taking a look at the evolution of DAOs, right? I think 2 years ago, there was a lot of hype around DAOs, so much hype. I mean, and like I said, I remember being in Bankless DAO, and it was crazy. The energy, the drive, man, the coordination, everything was very hyper. I think that's the word. It was very hyper, and it's not surprising to see so many projects which are very impactful. Basically come out of Bankless DAO, which again was built on the idea of people coming together and organizing around a shared vision, and just thriving and doing awesome things from there, right? And I guess for the Web3 space in general, the concept of DAOs was just growing. It was all over the place. And so 3 years later, the hype has it's come down. There's been so much learnings, and I think there's also been a lot of disappointment. But a simple question to you, especially when it comes to your personal experience being in the space, do you think that DAOs have lived up to the expectations?
Short answer, no. DAOs were so flashy 2-3 years ago. They were the new thing, and everybody was running on pure adrenaline and hype, and they thought they were gonna change the world, and they were gonna make tons of money. But really, it just kind of highlighted the fact that maybe we have an echo.
And a big one at that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like they when the bull like back 3 years ago it was like at the hype of the bull market and people were running very high on just like like money was coming in, everything was value was going up, and like we didn't like the sky was the limit. But really what happened was is that we were actually at the limit of where it was and everything came crashing down. And when the bear market came and everything dropped like significantly in value. I mean, even now like things are still crashing. Like NFT values and meme tokens are nowhere near their highs of what they were. It brought people back into like reality of just like, hey, if we're gonna continue to work in DAOs, like it's gotta like you have to support them. You have to support the community members. It has to be worth something. You know, people like if you got a community and you have like all these people that are like contributing to it, they're basically just volunteers and they're volunteering their time, energy, and their time and their energy, and whereas but they need to be compensated at some point. So really the DAOs in the beginning never really figured out proper compensation for it. Nowadays it's becoming very more apparent that like, hey, yeah, like if you want to keep sustaining people, like you have to figure out how to compensate them, which is starting to become like more of like the focus of like, hey, like how like survivability also involves like compensation, and how do you effectively like encourage and entice people to like contribute and effectively compensate them for their time and whatever energy that they want to do. So that's where I've kind of like like that's where I sort of see like DAOs like having to solve and figure out. I've mentioned this many times before. DAOpunks is a volunteer like organization, is a volunteer DAO. I'm a volunteer. We encourage everybody to help participate, and we welcome anybody that's here. But like we don't you get a much out of it as much as you put in. There's if you only have so much time to volunteer and give us our energy, like fantastic. We won't hold it against you if like other things pop up, or if other work becomes more available and takes your time, and like that's understandable. We ourselves are trying to figure out, well, how can we build ourselves out in order to be effectively like compensate our volunteers and our members, so that way we can encourage them to continue coming back, giving us more of their time, energy, and ideas to help build out our community. It's a tough conundrum to try and figure out and try to solve, but it's something I've been thinking on and trying to work on. Not easy.
Do you foresee a future where the concept of DAOs fail in Web3?
Not fail, evolve. Not every DAO will survive. It's very clear. Like if you look at the last 3 years, how many like DAOs and NFT groups just like sprung up and failed. Like there's a graveyard of them, like that, there's a bountiful graveyard of just like failed organizations that didn't make it. And that's great, because you need those failures in order for others to learn to survive and build off of and learn from those experiences. So I do not think that DAOs in all DAOs will fail. Many will. Some will succeed, and they will learn from those experiences of those that failed and how they were not able to effectively solve those problems that all DAOs currently face. Community member involvement, volunteers, compensation, like dealing with like building out your organization, stuff like that. A lot of them are slowly starting to figure that out, and they're actively working on it. And I do think that they'll survive for a few more years to come, until like the next thing like they have to learn how to solve and build themselves out is. Here great examples are just like Bankless DAO and like ApeCoin DAO are like two shining examples of just like DAO organizations that are just like learning to solve and like figure out all those problems, and just like they'll still be around in a few more years to help onboard the next wave of generation of people into Web3. I think DAOpunks, I think we have enough to like survive, to kind of like continue onboarding our grants programs, and we'll continue to try and figure out how to survive in there. But we are not in the premier league as like some of those other organizations. We're a few notches down, but we're still around, and we're still going to try and do our best to continue being around.
So with the evolution of DAOs, and just taking a look at the current state of DAOs right now, right? Do you feel like a lot of Web2 concepts or systems are being introduced into the DAOs because some of the Web3 or a lot of the Web3 concepts are not really working, and to survive, some of these systems within the Web3 space are introducing are being introduced into the space by some of these DAOs. I mean, just to survive, because I know, like I said, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, you could see so many radical experiments with regards to just how we work, how we coordinate, how even compensation works. But very in recent times, you don't see much. There's these new DAOs have more. I mean, if you look at some of the systems, they are more Web 2-ish, and we are not seeing a lot more bold experiments. And so, I mean, if we are looking at the evolution, do you think that we are evolving towards a very Web 2-ish future as DAOs?
No, I think we're still on the right path. I think it's just we're taking a lot of our knowledge and our experiences from Web 2 and we're applying it to Web 3. We're still moving to Web 3, and we'll have like Web 3 DAOs and everything. And a lot of these Web 2 companies, they have the benefit and they have the experience that I think that they'll transition pretty easily to become from like Web 2 to Web 3, or like some type of middle ground in between where they're still doing Web 2 and Web 3 work. And they'll be able to survive because they have that type of experience. They might not be as decentralized. They won't be like DAO propers, but they'll have like DAO-esque like capabilities as well, being like working in the Web3. Proper DAOs will have to, I think in the future, will have to like learn to adopt and integrate those like certain Web3 aspects that just because they work, they're tried and true. Like features and aspects that just like, hey, I'm like, if this aspect of that we has been continually worked and it works so well in Web 2, there's no reason why it can't work in Web 3. And if anything, we can probably evolve it to probably be more effective on in the Web3 space, either being like on chain through some type of like attestation reporting or stuff. So there's so many more possibilities for it. But it's just like, I think we're the future of DAOs is just going to be more adopting of more Web 2 based aspects. More so than what we probably had originally anticipated. Probably thought in the beginning that like, oh, we would develop everything ourselves. It'll be completely decentralized. It'll completely be on chain. And it's just like, hey, it worked. We had all these like skills and programs and understandings in Web 2. We don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. I think it's kind of funny though, because the idea was Web 2 companies becoming Web 3, DAOifying and going more of the DAO route. And now we have DAOs rather, the other way around. Do you think some DAOs are getting it right? Are there DAOs out there that you look at and say, okay, these guys are doing it right. These guys are on the right track?
I think it's hard to say. I think people are experimenting with what works. I think some people are still trying, like some organizations are still trying to work, and I'm not as well versed in as many DAOs either, so I don't know. But I do occasionally see spurts of just like, hey, like one organization is trying to do this new thing, and I was like, that seems like a proper way to like handle it. And I see another organization that does it a different way, and I'm like, that's a great alternative as well. I don't really know which one of those two is like the best course of action, but at least people are like, people are trying different alternatives. I don't like, I guess like, the thing is that like, you don't really know what works very well until like it's more battle tested through time and experience. So, we'll see in another year how well, how things go.
Yeah.
And then if the DAO's still around, it's also probably a good indicator.
Yeah, definitely. I Yeah, definitely. I do wonder though how all these protocols will work without a DAO. Also, again, there's the issue of regulation, right? I guess regulation too has played a bit of a role in how DAOs are evolving and becoming more Web 2-ish, like companies. And so that is also something that we wait to see. So, yeah. So, all right. So looking ahead, I think you did mention some stuff. Okay, so let me just, one of my favorite parts or things about DAO Punks is the T-shirt, the NFT, right? And for me, I don't.
I'm like smiling from ear to ear now.
I don't think there is any NFT merch in the entire Web3 space that comes close to what DAO Punks did, especially during like the first iteration, right? That time, it was innovative. It was like it was right on the mark in terms of pioneering. Until today, even on this podcast, I'm wearing the T, right? My archetype is a Shadowy Supercoda. If you are watching this video, you should be able to see. So Shadowy Supercoda 294. I'm so proud of this T-shirt that anywhere I wear it and I land, it's like all eyes turn on me. What is the what is the future of the DAO Punk merch? Like, what are some plans? What are things that you are cooking? I want to know.
Oh man, so my goal. I've been trying to do this. I've been percolating this for a while. Is bringing back more unique merch to each individual DAO Punk holder. Like have more merch specifically for your DAO Punk available to you for you to use in however way you want it. Much like the great thing about the 101 merch is that like that is unique to you. The downside to that is that like we only made one of those. There's only one that makes, and we can't make more of those for you. So if you like if like you wore it through and through anything. And I'm like, I like that, but I'm like, I want to make it more available to you. Like you want like, oh, you want your hoodie, shirt, like with your punk on it. You want it in different designs, or like we want to try new styles of it. You want to represent it. I want to make that more available to you. And if you want it to be like, oh, like I need it for I want my baggy version. I want my clean version, more stuff. Working on that. It's just hard because, I'm a volunteer. I do what I can, and there's 1,111 punks, and so the idea is like, well, if I'm gonna make all these unique assets and all this unique merch, like how am I gonna make 1,111 individual ones? I have to like for each different item of it. So trying to figure out like, okay, well, how do I like reasonably do this? Like I have a few templates of like, okay, like here's the design, what I'm going to do, here's where we're going to put like each of the individual punk. Now I just have to figure out like who wants it. Like how do I like, I'm like, if you want this, like how do I figure, like how do I learn, how do I get like your information that you want this, and like I will put it up on our shop and I'll sell it to you. And I'm like, here, like if you're like, we'll have like these different designs. It's we're gonna basically I went on a 5-minute rant on that. Basically it's going to be more selling of your individual punk, more merch available to you, and if you want, and like you can order as much of it as you want, and you just like will notify, like you can tell us like, okay, here's like we have these different types of items, just let us know which ones, like if you're interested in any of them, and we'll just put them up for you and we'll make them available for you. That's where we see the future of like merch.
So with all this, I just have one question. As a DAO Punk merch maxi, when merch, say when merch.
You're just gonna, man, I know, man. I'm just like, I don't know. I'll let you. You know what? I'll let you. Soonish. It's.
This is the default answer. Soon.
soon-ish. It's cohort. I will, if you're listening to this, cohort 5 will happen before merch. Let's put that into perspective.
All right. Okay. So, like,
I also gotta just say, like you're the goat of all goats of like our merch, because like you're the only DAO punk that I'm aware of that actually has a photo with the OG goat Vitalik wearing your DAO punk shirt. And I'm just like, every time I think about that, I'm like every time DAO punks come up, they're like, oh yeah, and I was just like, yo, Decade got this great photo with him and Vitalik, and he's wearing his DAO punk, and I'm just like, oh, just like I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, thank you. So I don't think I've shared this anywhere, but like, I think that the merch caught Vitalik's eye. There were a lot of people around, and then when I just walked in, the merch, it turns eyes, and this is the thing with the DAO Punk merch. Right, it's not like something that we are like shilling or anything. It's just facts. So I got there, and Vitalik looks at the merch, and I think Vitalik is a DAO punk, right?
Yeah, I think Vitalik he is. Yeah, Vitalik is a whether or not he knows that, he is a DAO punk. We sent him a DAO punk about a year and a half ago, give or take. Yeah, he is a DAO punk, whether or not he calls himself that. But yeah, we sent him a DAO punk. We sent him one of our DAO punks for him to make him a member. So yeah.
So like he saw the shirt, and it's like, yo, there's DAO punk way out here in Africa. Yo, it's like, I looked at him, he's like, yeah, let's take a pic. And that would be one of the most historic DAO Punk pics ever. And yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the shout out, LiveFast. But again, like I said, when merch.
Soon.
All right.
Soon, man. I'm working on it.
Awesome. All right. And so, just wrapping up very soon, and let's just look at the future a little bit. And I know you have touched on a couple of the things, but let me just again ask you, like, specifically, what are some upcoming projects or initiatives that you are excited about when it comes to DAO Punks?
Right now, I'm honestly, the two things that I'm looking for are the cohort programs, the grant programs. They're probably the things that bring me some of the most joy. Getting to run, host, and like being able to read all new types of people, onboard them into like the DAOpunks community, and just get to more interact and meet new people who are working in Web3 and try to like get more like just like kind of like spread our mission. I love it. That's one of the great things out there. Beyond the grant program, I mean, trying to make sure that we survive and we're around for another year. I try to think in terms of every year, how to make sure that we're still around and we're still doing good work. So the cohort program. Next is like underneath that is merch, because merch is like everybody loved the merch. And then just taking it, trying to solve, like try to be more present with a little bit more trying to figure that out. And then we'll see. The cohort the grant programs are really like tried and true. They work very well for us, and they do so much good things for us. And then as hopefully maybe one day one of the applicants will help create DAOpunks, something very new and innovative for the DAOpunks community, and that will help spearhead us into the future. Who knows? But I'm not too sure what the future holds for us, honestly. But I am open to ideas, and looking forward to hearing any type of community members' feedback or ideas of what they have and what we can do. I'm always interested in learning more about what people think we could do.
That's one of the things I love about the concept of DAOs, right? The ability for anyone or any community member to just come out with ideas and just get the support of the community and just build stuff out. So it's like innovation can come from anywhere or from anyone. So definitely looking forward to that. I know you didn't mention the merch, so I'll just put it in there. I'm also excited about that.
When merch.
When merch. All right. Also, okay. So we've had a lot of conversation around DAOs, and so this is just for the newbies, for the plebs who are getting into the space or who have joined the space and are looking to probably get into DAOs. What advice would you give to listeners interested in becoming DAO punks or even starting their own DAOs or starting their DAO journey or joining other DAOs? What is something that you have learned, or a couple of things that you have learned from being in the DAO space that you think new folks should really know to thrive or to make it faster if they are joining DAOs now?
I think some of the things that like I've noticed in my experiences, and as I hop across like multiple different DAOs, some of the same problems always come up. Is that a lot of people are overworked and they're stretched very thin. So being able to organize and document like specific tasks can go an incredibly long way. It seems so simple, but it's just like being able to take notes and tell people of like, hey, we're being able to like document. They're like, we wanted to fix we wanted to work on objective A, B, and C, and then they're like, hey, did we assign those tasks to certain people? Basic just like note taking, keeping organization, it's basically product management, just making sure people are working on the things that they should be in a reasonable time frame to get it done, so that way when everybody aggregates back again, they can work towards it. Every time I've gone across different DAOs, it's always the same thing. Like people are like, oh, I forgot I was supposed to do that, or like, oh, I don't remember, like we said that last week. And it's just like, I was like, simple things like that, they go a long way. I found myself in even when I started in DAOpunks, the first thing I did, I was like, I just took notes. Every week I took notes and I just would write it out, and everybody was like, oh wow, it was like, we talked about that last week. Oh yeah, this person said that they would take care of this. They're like, hey, can you take care of it? And they're like, oh yeah, now that you have the note, like we said, oh, I said I was going to do this, like, oh yeah, like hold them accountable, like keep it doing there. They're like, oh, can we assign this, or like can we group or have two people work async on this project and like get it done by next week? And it tends to it really tends to work out very well. It keeps people in line, keeps people in check, and it helps get more work done effectively.
All right.
It seems so simple, but it's so true.
This is for the plebs. This is for the newbies.
Yeah.
All right. So LiveFast, what are some of the most, maybe give me 3 exciting trends in the DAO space, or working in Web3 generally, that excites you, that you think people should pay attention to?
3 things that really excite me in the DAO space. Being able to learn new skills that I never thought I would learn. That's number 1. Number 2, improving my social, my set of social skills and my ability to communicate, my communication skills with other people. And number 3, finding new relationships to people that I would have never otherwise had the experience of meeting or interacting with. I know that seems like they seem real basic, but like you really can't undermine how much all 3 of those, you really put yourselves, like you really do all 3 of those. Like when you join Web3 and you join a DAO, you learn how to, like, you learn so many more new things. You grow as an individual through both communication, your means of interaction, and how you conduct yourself. And then like you develop camaraderie and friendships that like you are, and like that you wouldn't have otherwise met with people. I mean, look at us. I mean, like we're like halfway across the like we're halfway across the world from each other. We wouldn't have had this ever experience if it wasn't through Web3 and DAOs and DAOpunks. I can never not like appreciate what that is and what that means.
Definitely agree with you there. One of the greatest things with this whole DAO experiment is, the social thing, which is also kind of like the cultural thing. I think I even wrote an article about it, and I named it the cultural Big Bang. Basically looking at how DAOs have converged people from different part of the world, and out of that, convergence, we've had, a boom in terms of interaction and just meeting people, learning about their culture, learning about the way they do things. And by learning, you kind of like pick some really great part of, the way they are. And they also pick, some good things about you. And, it creates this whole new culture where, people tend to understand each other more. People tend to coordinate more, across time zones, across different geographic location. I remember there was this one DAO call that I was on, even like a typical DAO, Bankless DAO call, right? Like you during those times, you have people from all over the world. You could get people from different part of, Africa. You get people from different part of Asia. You could get people from different part of, the US and in Europe, and Latin America. It's like, it's something that I don't see any space like doing it better than DAOs, right? And so I definitely agree with you when it comes to that part of DAOs. And yeah, it's like it's really awesome. All right, LiveFast. Let's get a bit personal, right? I mean, if you've been listening to this conversation, then you would know that the DAO space is a bit chaotic. The way I like to define it is like it's like a beehive. There's certain DAOs, when you enter the Discord and the community itself, it's like a beehive. So much going on. So you, as a DAO punk who thrives in such a chaotic environment, what are some hobbies that you do outside of work or outside of DAOing?
Outside of that work,
Yeah.
I do normal basic things that for myself. It's mostly I like to cook. I do a lot of cooking for me and my family. And as as we talked before, the pre call, I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons. It's a more of online role play tabletop game that we play with me and a bunch of my friends. Been playing for about 5 years now. We're same campaign, and yeah, it's just like those are some things that I like to do for myself. I love cooking. It's a great way of me for it's just kind of like distress and bond more with my family. Dungeons and Dragons really helps me bond with my colleagues and my friends. And honestly, I'm trying to branch out and get a bunch of my Web3 people in different DAOs to like play with me together. I feel like we can have a lot of fun with that and get that experience. And then outside of, and like the last thing I do is like I exercise a lot of running to help kind of like clear my head and get myself like stay fit, and gives me that that clarity to kind of like think of new possibilities and where we can help move things forward. Gives me that good opportunity. It really those are the things that I do in my personal time off.
Yo, that's awesome. No wonder you cooked or you've been cooking with the DAO Punks grants cohort. I mean, since you like cooking,
Yeah, man, you've been cooking literally and figuratively.
Let the man cook. All right. Any last words, final thoughts before we go really fast?
No, I'm good. But I just want to say, really, man, thank you so much for the invite, for giving me the chance to just talk and this just like fun dialogue between us. It was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. And I hope that you apply to cohort 5. You came in 4th place. We don't. Fourth place is like not gonna cut it, and like 3rd place isn't gonna cut it this time. So like hey, gotta be one of those top 2 people. I really hope that you apply, and yeah, we'll see. And for all those you listening, feel free to reply as well. If you need to reach out to me, I'm at LiveFast9986 on Twitter. Feel free to hit me up. My DMs are open. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for passing through. And to all of our dear listeners, remember, none of what we share here is a financial advice. Make sure that you do your own research. But more importantly, if you've listened to this episode, be a pioneer, blaze a trail, leave positive impact in this world. Thank you, LiveFast, and to everyone, stay safe out there. Until the next one, peace out.